We had a good union to Sweden. Yeah.
No hand sanitizers for anybody who wants it.
Thanks.
I've known Saks for years. So when you
Yeah.
Man, it's too sharp.
it's an inside of 20 million one day, they were sitting out there.
Yeah, yeah.
What function it was, and all that stuff. It's $25.
Oh, that's it.
Get it now? Person puts out to you and have a snag and one. It's a great asset. Figure.
Well, he already had a lot of experience coming in, so it was really interesting to see his resume.
Yeah, he's about, probably 20 something, 20 years in emergency services. Yeah.
Well, I hope he's happy because we need.
He is. And his leadership right now.
I shared this document with him, so you can look at it, but you can't keep it. Okay, because it's not final until we finalize the budget. And I said, these are numbers that we saw 7.75%. Which is, basically averaging 2.75 in terms of review rate increases over the whole city, just to have numbers in the budget. And so these numbers will change depending on how much more, is forthcoming.
So the evaluations, they did self-evaluations, so there's no control. But people can use it. Synopsis of what he feels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I wouldn't, that because that's uncertain. We've already made up our mind. Yeah. The salaries are done in terms of consideration. It's only operational budget that we're really not talking about. And quite frankly, I know Jeff Finley. Yes, we have. Well, you knew I was behind. But I tell you what. He got it in terms of what we're talking about with Tim and this guy said, he's like, can you stay up with Tim? Because he's terrific. He's the things in the county, but he cannot go manage the department. I don't know why. And Jeff didn't have any problem with that at all. He understood. Oh, you did? Oh, got it. Oh, good. Good. So, but I will take. Patient over paying the city. He said, our people are going to be using the county to burn the city. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not going to happen. But then second of all, we've had the same problem with the county for the last 20 years. So, I just thank you for that. Exactly. Hey, Tim. Hey, Max. Hey, who's come up on just Jill? Okay. Pardon me? Okay. We haven't heard from anybody else. How you doing? Good. How about you, Tim?
My head is swimming right now. I've been doing trip logs all day. Swimming.
Okay.
Numbers. Got numbers.
Well, they were all in the same boat. We're brain dead, and this is going to last about 10 minutes. That's big talk, huh?
Seems like we have a lot of people here.
Yeah, a lot of people here. There's not many city council members.
The time is a big deal. We're hoping for the not.
See, Christian and Dana and Shannon. Shannon's not gonna be here either?
No, this. Yes, I see you.
Okay. It's just Christian and Dana that are up in the air.
Hey, how's it going? It's good.
Yeah, the sweaters at this time.
Huh?
Time to get the sweaters out.
Not yet, we're ready for second summer. Be next week. Is that wishful thinking?
This
Good,
weekend,
good.
it's supposed to be
Need
good.
my bike riding.
It's gonna be in the like upper forties, I think. This time of year, fine.
I was good for a meeting.
It's the trick between the street.
Yeah, Shirley Max is better, so put products in it.
Well, that'll be good. You get about $500 in candy.
Or-
$200 worth. These are really.
It's about, are you,
About 12 meters.
Sandy? 80. Whenever I.
Just one per kid.
I have a nice one.
Well, they keep the candy for so many different places.
Yeah.
I mean, give it more than one, I mean, you're still gonna end up with 50 pieces of candy. There's all kinds of tables and,
Actually,
you know, a lot of people give out more than that.
Data's on.
Hey, Dana.
To grow this out, but one. Event.
I was very good.
That's
And I like.
And they got Monday one, so you can probably get that. That's fine.
And I'm
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're all gonna be diabetic by Tuesday.
Yeah, there it is.
Even my cousin used to raise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't.
Fireworks, bombs.
It was a big deal for us as teenagers. We,
No, I don't think it's good. You like.
we weren't quite as rowdy as you, but
No, this is about to be done.
You're one of our favorite
Very
things.
excited.
This is a little fun.
Commitment.
Yeah.
She used to take them on the babes.
March.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's better than taping them on the frogs like I used to do.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean.
All right, people that go on there.
People look, yeah.
Are we have a
Well, we have plenty of people. We're seeing if Christian is gonna show up, but we're going to get started here in maybe 60 seconds.
who on, I can't see
We
everybody.
have 4 city council members. We know that, there's Christian. We know that Tracy and Shannon will not be on.
Okay.
Not be here. Hi, Christian. It's all right. Perfect timing. We were making fun of you, but now we'll stop. Perfect.
No, we weren't. We're making fun of Max.
Okay, it's 6:03, and at 6:03, we'll call the city council work session to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lauritsen is absent. Councilmember Hill,
Present.
Councilmember Luna Leon,
Here.
Councilmember Grant is absent. Councilmember Fergency,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Here.
and Mayor Lottie.
Here. Thank you. At this time, would like for the approval of the agenda. Do we have anything we need to add to this agenda?
No, I think we've got plenty for tonight.
Okay. I have a second.
Seconds.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The agenda is approved. Housekeeping matters. Anybody have anything you'd like to talk about before we get rolling?
I just have one question,
Please.
and the pocket park there across the street, and I see that it's ready for concrete.
It was poured today.
It was.
A the floor was poured today, so now the next, after it cures, and I think it only takes a day or two to cure, and they'll start building the walls.
Okay, so what's their construction schedule on that?
I don't know, we'll be talking in the morning to Hope, about that. Every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, Nancy convenes a meeting, and we all discuss where we are and what happens next. I think, last I heard, she thinks about 3 days to build the walls, and I'm not sure when the guys from Denver are coming to build the walls. It might be Monday.
Yeah, we're at the mercy of scheduling. We had a nice, pretty plan on what the construction schedule looked like, but unfortunately, between supply chain and really just scheduling contractors and delays and weather and other setbacks. So we do have a timeline, if you will. But anybody's welcome to join. I know I add more and more people to this Wednesday part of the call.
But to answer your question, it looks like these things will happen in pretty close succession. The walls, then the trusses and roof. And once they're done with that, then the inside, the plumber and electrician.
So we're
Good
on the
luck.
way.
We're on the way.
1 month. Yeah,
And
and so you remind me, what I'll do is make sure I get the exact update for where we are, and then I'll put it in the city administrator report for next Tuesday.
yeah, let's talk about that in the morning,
Okay.
in the meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Any other housekeeping matters? Anything, Dana? Henry? One of you? Okay, thank you. At this time, we would entertain public comments on items that are not on the agenda. If anybody in city council or on Zoom would like to speak to city council on items not on the agenda, please step up. Seeing none, we'll continue on. At this time, we have the first one on the agenda is the Leadville Street Department. Although I do see Main Street, it seems to be teed up at the podium. So,
The agenda, that we've added, the Leadville Main Street was first, then Leadville Street Department, Leadville Lake County Fire Rescue, and then Leadville Planning Department.
got it.
When is EDC in there?
In that case,
Main Street.
Okay,
so EDC and Main Street, would you go ahead and
yeah, well,
present?
great. Well, we're gonna start with our Main Street. So she's got a feed out.
Okay.
Received this report already. I have a couple notes just because this is I can't believe a year has gone by. I'm just in shock. But I'm really proud of the progress of the Main Street program. And the Harvard in 2022. We'll talk a little bit about that here, but I just want to good evening to everybody. Thank you for your time, staff, and about this partnership, without your partnership, that none of this is possible. So we're excited to provide you our quarterly updates. So this year, we instituted quarterly program updates to our major funders, which is good. And hopefully that's been beneficial. This is basically our Q3 combination of 2023 budget requests, and that's the timing that seems to work best. And we just thank you for your time and consideration. On behalf of all of us, we're truly grateful for the continued support. As a reminder, your investment into our program will allow us to continue our work around the Main Street 4-point approach, which is economic vitality, design, organization, and promotion. So as you hopefully have been able to experience over the last year, we have achieved significant milestones since the EDC for the management of the program in March of 2021. I think I'm much better at that. But this year we created again quarterly programs. So in your report, I won't go into it, line by line, because I do want to have this a fluid conversation, as well as introduce some members that have joined us tonight from our Main Street board. In the report, we've highlighted some accomplishments in 2022, as well as a request for funding next year. We won't go through the report in detail, but we would like to highlight a few key accomplishments this year that ensures the efficacy and sustainability of our Main Street program. First, by creating a transformational strategy and board development resources have laid a strong foundation for programming, which was the ultimate goal. We have successfully advocated for over $400,000 in grant funding for projects in the historic core. Additionally, we have focused on inclusive, and I focus on inclusive community engagement and activation by creating community events for everyone to enjoy, racking up hundreds of volunteer hours. And finally, allocated a full-time dedicated staff as our program has beautifully blossomed from a part-time program to a full-fledged respective Main Street community that requires additional capacity. So I would like to introduce Erin Duggan, our board president. She has led this board since the beginning, 5 years now. Think about that. And she wants to say a few words to you guys as we go through our report. And if we want to review the financials and give you some highlights of what we're asking for. These funds are going directly back into our programming and staff capacity as we have a full programming year. And we were able to accomplish that this year, and we plan on doing that and then some.
Hi there, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Erin, I've been in community for a while, and I really first want to reiterate how appreciative we are of the city's support from the very beginning, and the support that we've continued to receive. It's super important to us. I hope that this report that has gone out to you guys kind of shows the value that we've tried to provide. We've really focused on programming that adds value to the community as a whole and is inclusive. We've really tried to include historic preservation in that. We've tried to include activating spaces. With Zions Park, we've tried to beautify downtown, not that it means a lot, but like flower boxes and stuff like that. And we've really tried to do things like Trick or Treat Street that kind of get the whole community out, and the music events in the park. And I hope that, I know I've seen some of the faces there, and I hope that you guys have noticed a little bit of that programming. Felt successful to us. The main thing for us, and I think that a lot of the successes that we've had this year are because of our increased bandwidth. I mean, you guys all know how much effort it takes to put things on and get things accomplished, and even just putting reports like this together, it takes a lot of bandwidth. And I feel like with the staff support that we've had recently, it's just made us so much more capable of accomplishing so much more. And I feel like it sets us up for having more capabilities of grant writing and receiving grant funding for some of the programming that we would like to continue. And so I suppose that's really all we wanted to say to you guys. We're more than happy to answer any questions at all that you may have.
I also did want to just introduce 2 board members. We for the first time in a long time, we had a full activated board. And this is the first time that they're attending, and so we just want to welcome Alicia Feather and Katie Scott. Katie's our treasurer, and has really our elevated board leadership has allowed us to do this type of elevated reporting, like trajectories and financial scorecards, and with kind of effective accounting representation, we're able to kind of elevate the way we report out impact to you guys. And in the past, that's been a struggle, coming once a year, going, look what all we've done. I think that, kind of continuing that communication is key, so that all of us understand that we're doing right by your investment. So, thank you.
Councilmember Green has her hand up.
Dana,
Hi, yes, I just wanted to confirm, looking at last year's budget, is your Main Street's request this year the same as last year? That's what I'm seeing. Is that correct?
It is not. We are asking, your contribution last year was $36,000. And that really is not even enough to have a part-time administrative person. So the EDC has kind of shouldered a lot of the investment really into that higher level leadership. So this year we are asking for $50,000. And you will see those on page of the presentation.
So it's just that the budget in front of me doesn't reflect that. Is that?
No. No, it doesn't, Dana. I
Okay,
didn't know how
cool.
much they were asking for.
Okay, cool. No, I wanted to make sure I was understanding correctly. It seemed a little like it might be too low. Thank you.
It's on page, of the presentation, it's on page.
Yeah, I know, there's an information around here, but if you look at the financials for 2022-2023 comparison. For revenue and expenses, you should see it outlined there.
So it's page 12, the one that I'm projecting right now.
Yes. I'd like to kind of recap, in case it's a deep, dark secret, I've been a big fan of Main Street for many years and was involved at the very beginning when we started Main Street as a program. But what really impresses me is how far it's come over the years. And I'm looking at what they've accomplished this year. I'm looking at community cleanup, which is a pretty fun thing for our community. Also, the Open for Business grant, which is the grant that was used by the Herald Democrat to restore their building. The summer nights at Zeitz were huge successes in our city. We've never done that before. Trick or Treat Street is coming up. Leadville and Bloom, which is our planter program, which is the way we started with Main Street. It was like the first thing we ever did, but it's gotten bigger every year. And this year we had hanging baskets and we had the big baskets. I especially love the big baskets, Aaron. Don't you?
I love it.
Yeah, okay, no, I don't
They
think that's
always-
true. The 4th of July parade, the Parkland restroom was a Main Street grant process that's going to get us these restrooms on Main Street. Shop Small Saturdays coming up, which has been a big deal for us over the years. The Parade of Lights will be involved in that. And the last thing I would say is the live auction, which we hadn't had in a couple of years. The live auction was just was a huge hit, great success, and a great community event. I'm so impressed by all that this Main Street committee has accomplished this year. Really something.
I failed to mention, I apologize, I did fail to mention that we find after over 5 years in the Colorado Main Street program as an accredited Main Street program, we are finally elevating in the Main Street program. We had to, as an organization, hit key milestones that couldn't happen overnight. So we have been working on this since March of 2021, and we will be making a big announcement about that in the beginning of 2023. What it does is it elevates how we are viewed amongst our funding partners in preservation period. So, and we will also get extra grant money. Again, one step forward toward additional and sustainable funding for the future.
Okay. Any questions, whether Nancy or Aaron?
Just one question about the grant writing. So we're, I think, city and the county and Main Street are all wanting to be able to chase more money. So you mentioned grant writing. If I happen to see something that's Main Street appropriate, we can have the bandwidth to the staff to actually pursue grants.
We are doing that now.
That's great. Okay.
For example, it's not in any of the reports because we can't report on that grant. We haven't been awarded. But we have written internally, and it's a collective effort between board members and staff. And we wrote a grant for a deadline grant to fund our concept series next year in the park. So we don't have to come to the city for additional funds. You'll see some of that funding reflected in our new budget. For maybe $50 that's where that money is coming from and not out of your additional investment really helps us to fund sort of a full-time person. It's about an 80% of a full-time person, and the EDC picks up the tab for the rest. And I'm then in charge, basically, now. It took that investment to kind of get us up to the level to where we're at now.
Great, because I know we've talked about this before, but it's almost like a vicious cycle is that, you know, organizations and local governments that have the money to chase the money, get the money. And then you have the money, which means you can chase more money. So having people who have the bandwidth to write the grants and manage the grants is huge.
Not only that, the Main Street program has created key partnerships this year that we haven't had in the past, and that's the Colorado Conservation League. They help a lot too in oversight, in directing some of these projects. Not only that, but our Colorado Main Street partners are very connected to us, and a lot of times there are eyes and ears on certain grant submittals as well. For example, Gail Langley, who manages the program at Colorado Main Street, she happens to sit on the application review committee for the CDOT revitalization grant.
Can we be applying for those and
Yeah, the more we can improve the efficacy of our partnerships, the more they're going to be apt to lend us and afford us grant opportunities when they understand we have the capacity to roll them out. It may put a lot of burden on Donna and me and us, but I think that I'm really proud of our progress in the last year. I think we've created an excellent partnership. I'm in the office, once a week with these ladies. And I think that, we're well on our way. I do know that, like I said in an email somewhere, we haven't had the program for one full calendar year yet, if you can imagine that. So we assumed this March 2021, we haven't even managed a full 12 months on our own, and we've already been able to accomplish as much. So with a little bit more investment to help the EDC, get us up to that level, sky's the limit for us, and we're already piloting things for our Main Street community partners in Colorado. So, that's the path and the trajectory that the vision that we have from day one. So, we appreciate that.
Okay,
thank you.
I just want to say really quick that asking for more money is not something that we do lightly at all. We've had a lot of conversations about this. It's a big deal for us. And just being present on the program for the last several years, a lot of it was around volunteer stuff. And we just know that that's not always sustainable forever. And it really feels like the more successful programming we can provide, the farther our reach becomes. The more support we get in the community and from people who, basically just with awareness, the more people come to our auction. It just really expands our fundraising capabilities in so many different ways. And I wanted to reiterate that point before we wrap up on it. No.
okay. Any other questions for Main Street? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, bring up people for E EDC.
Hopefully that got everybody. Thank you guys. Later, just knocking out a little format updated for project. So we can see. I did write down a couple talking points. I also wanted to introduce Jason, our board president. So good evening, council and staff. Again, Jason's going to share some things about some key highlights of the report, really specific to some of our programming efforts that I'm going to talk about for the municipal building plans. And I'll try not to take up too much time, but I do want to say we've been in a state of transition. Last year at this time, we were losing our executive director that we invested a lot of money in after 18 months. And Jason and I were kind of at the right place at the right time. I like to go a lot of different ways, but we have a passion for the success of our organization. It's my career. It's in his field of study, in case some of you don't know. He is in a Tennessee State Master's program. I was in his group. So we want you to know that we take this very seriously, and we can't express our gratitude. You guys have continued to support the EDC and really helping us create a better understanding of what economic development means for us here in Lake County. Economic development entities, are different. There's not one that's ever the same, just like Main Street programs. I tried to look, they don't exist. We're all different. We all have DNA. We're unique, just like humans almost. And how we demonstrate our impact and ensure return on investment for the city. I think it's really important, and I don't know that we've done the best job at that over the years, and I think that's been acknowledged. I think that's really, we're being transparent about that. So this year, and I just want to say, you know, like many community groups, in Lake County, we've experienced transition, even since before COVID. But now, with new board leadership and organizational staff changes, your investment has been thoughtfully considered, and we're pleased to report some key accomplishments just so far this year, in the short 10 months that he and I have been at the helm here, as well as our ask and our plan for 2023. We are, just as a recap, you know, we are a community benefit nonprofit organization with a mission to attract and retain jobs in the county and really help businesses access resources for sustainability, expansion, and EDOs are strategic partners, in addition to providing on-the-ground wraparound technical assistance. And we're essentially your business development team, as well as your community resource on things like workforce development, access to capital, and important economic data, just to name a few. In 2022, we successfully created key programming that tie directly back to our 4-point strategic plan that Jason's going to talk about, that will be officially rolled out in 2023. We didn't waste any time with your investment this year, and already started that programming in all key focus areas in 2022. Please refer to our presentation for details. Jason and Deb will point some things out, but additionally, we're putting finally, and I think this is the first time in EDC history, that we're rolling out an official programming calendar. We are putting the finishing touches on that, and that will really improve the way we communicate our role and impact and our economic future in Lake County. Your investment in economic development ensures really that our community continues on a healthy and sustainable economic trajectory. Planning for our future community and local workforce. And you know, I started my career in economic development in 2009. I got laid off from the National Association of Home Builders in 2008. That's not a shock. This is when EDC funding is needed the most, guys, and that's the reality. We're in for the next 12 to 24 months. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how that's going to impact us, just like we didn't when COVID hit. So we know that EDC funding and demonstrating ROI, demonstrating that impact has been a challenge. We haven't done a good job doing that, and we have dedicated our lives, literally, personally and professionally, since January, to turn the ship on how people perceive our organization. It has not been easy. So I just want to thank all of you for your openness and your support, and faith really in our passion for what we do. So I would like Jason to kind of highlight some of our key accomplishments. Again, all of this is in, and we're not highlighting everything in this report, guys. So we're doing things we've never done before, like analyzing workforce data, analyzing sales tax data, reporting that out to our funders. So Jason will get on with some other stuff.
Sure. Thanks, council. Yeah, we really appreciate your support, and Tim Hill has been signing my word. The mayor for a long time has been a good supporter and an active member of our board as well. You know, like Nancy said, economic development does mean something kind of different to everybody. You know, the key things here are enhancing wealth and wealth creation and quality of life. That'll always come up. There's always different definitions for economic development, but those are two things that always comes up. So I don't want to get too far in the plan, but we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the strategic planning that we did. So we had downtown Colorado come in, who they do support for URAs and things like that, downtown business districts and so on. They do a lot of things for that. So we brought them in to help us sit down as a board. We did kind of a board retreat / strategic planning session. And so that these are the 4 goals that came out of there, organizational goals. And what the focus was, yeah, and you can dive into the report that these guys put together. But what are the focus that we want to bring back to economic development is our small businesses and entrepreneurship here in Butterville. We feel like, you know, trying to get a Walmart here or something like that isn't going to happen. So we want to try to focus on what we do have and what we can grow on. which is our small businesses and entrepreneurs. So you look around Main Street, we don't have those, chains and things like that. Pretty much all our businesses are entrepreneurs and small businesses. So that's what we want to assist in. So the strategic plan is here with the 4 goals in there. And just, as you dive into that, you'll see that there's goes into the goal a little bit more, and then there's tactics, and we've included performance key indicators to it, so we can start tracking these things. So that's one of the things we haven't done in the past is gone through and actually tracked what we've done and attached those to our goal. So each one of the things in the packet there sort of touches on which goal that might be. So broadband infrastructure, for example, is a critical piece of economic development. And we're just not going to have businesses and things to look at it unless we have that. So it's happening a lot faster. We're partnering with Vero Networks. We're bringing fiber optic here. We'll have that really soon. So that's going to be key to moving forward. You can get rid of that there. The resiliency plan project. And this was, I believe, just announced that everybody will get a chance to hear from Better City here soon too. That's coming up. We just got a date about that. So Nancy will put that out so you guys can attend that with the reports in there too. And that's not just for the EDC or the city or county or whoever, that's for anyone. So if anyone wants that plan will live with us. But if anyone wants to take something from that plan and develop it and further,
For those.
anyone that can.
Just for clarity, we were chosen as the community champion by Climax to work with Better City to help facilitate this process.
Yeah, so that was the pilot program that we were, they call it the champion of, I guess, but we're the ones sort of facilitating those meetings, setting up interviews for them. Now they're in Silver City, New Mexico, so they're taking this program and going to other counties. So Freeport McMoRan is the big person, the big company behind that. Resiliency, business retention and expansion, but that's another critical piece of economic development. Pretty much needs to be done. So that was lacking. We really wanted to bring that back, so we brought that back this year. We've interviewed over 50 businesses, so we're in that stage of gathering information right now. We don't have the reports and data to put together. That will come later. We have a committed team. We hired Judy Green as an independent contractor to run that, and we have board members that are sitting on that committee that are helping with interviews and so on. Did you want to add anything else on the
definitely did.
On that and then further on.
A lot of economic development organizations have an internal kind of business assistance development team. So in the event that it's a smaller community, it's not unusual to engage a committee in this way. So this is an ongoing process. It's going to take a year or two to really demonstrate some of that impact. But I think some of that's highlighted there.
So that's a big, like she said, a big part of our business is programming to aid with the local businesses. That's going to hopefully tell us a lot of things that they need and more as we get through that plan. So the future of work is a event that we're putting on actually this week, actually tomorrow. And that's going to be at the Colorado Mountain College. Nancy, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, hopefully you all know, because all of them should be on my list. We are partnering, it is going to be part of our 2023 program. It's a quarterly event. Chaffey County, Jake, my counterpart in Chaffey County, and I are kind of modeling each other, kind of see what works and what doesn't, and learn from each other, which is awesome. So yes, we are launching now. This is for those, just as a short brief. It's an apprenticeship program that we hope to roll out in partnership with our economic development partners, our workforce development partners, our education partners, and our business community to really match, make. And the key thing about this is that because of our increased capacity as a community with a full-fledged city manager and a county manager and all of these key, we're able to, to really focus on
And that gets back to goal 3, which is create, communicate jobs and workforce opportunities. That's one of the things we felt like as a BDC is you really need to be concerned with jobs. I don't know how much that we have thought about that in the past, so. You know, goal 3 and goal 4 are things that we're just starting to work on, because we all know, we've heard that number before, 80% of our workforce commutes out of the county. So we're trying to come up with ways that we can lower that. Can we lower that by 5%? So we're gonna be working on some other plans with that, but this has to do with our education partners and creating apprenticeships.
Yeah, apprentice and internship programs
Internship.
that the kids and graduating seniors are going to be required to participate in. So, and we have a great turnout. We have Melanzana coming, we have Climax coming, we have probably a dozen key employers in town to talk about. That'll be there tomorrow. So you're all invited. If you want to come out, that's the facts. Come on.
And the fourth goal too is one that we're gonna take some time, advocate for an entrepreneur system. Kind of a new concept for a lot of people too, but this is definitely something that really has to do with incubators, accelerators, things like that. There's one in Buena Vista that's going on right now, so we've been actively trying to get money to fund this, so that we can come up with a plan for it. We went for a grant and we did not get that one for national funding, but we're working right now on another one. I don't know how much you want to say about that, but we're trying to get the funding to get that launched as well.
I like
Focus on entrepreneurial culture here in Ludlow.
It's a double bonus when we can pilot a new program, and that's my plan. My plan is to pilot the regional technical assistance program. This is a new rollout of a former Blueprint 2.0 out of Oedic. And this is teed up, and this can mean a lot of different things. And like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're still in due diligence phase, so we will engage all of our partners when we continue down these paths. To make sure that we all understand and we're all on the same page, but we've already engaged our Oedic partners. And the one key thing I want to say about this is, and we'll have the same conversation with our county partners, as you know, we need, in our RTAP program is designed for this, to assist the rural community to create a capacity plan. What does an entrepreneurial accelerated program look like? We can't just cookie cutter Chaffey County's, plan. It would be close, right? I mean, we probably could model something similar, but the difference between that program and our due diligence of our program is that they were smart and they got money from the Ready Grant when COVID came down and they had $5 million to give away. Now they have no more money. So we've got to find other ways to get this done. So we would like to engage our state partners to help us create and give us a capacity grant. And then they won't even just stop there. They're going to help us create the plan, and then they're going to help us create the funding and push the sustainability. So that's kind of the more exciting thing to do with your investment next year.
Yeah, and just a couple things too. One, Nancy's worked really hard with membership. She's been really great with that. So seeing there that we really increased our membership this year. There's only so far that we can take that because Lake County's only so big. There's only so many businesses in here and stuff. So at some point, we might be capped out on how much membership that we can get to. The other thing is this year, one of our goals is to increase communication. So we've added the quarterly reports for the city and the county, the newsletters and articles in the newspapers. So when you guys seen that, that's the great work of our staff and Nancy putting all that stuff together. And so, the staff, that's really the majority of our budget goes to payroll. So the money that we're asking for you guys is really to maintain staff. We've never had as much staff at the EDC as we have now. So we have Nancy as full-time director. We have Meryl as a full-time person who also helps with Main Street, and then we also have Allison, who's part-time right now. So we would like to get her to be full-time next year. So that's kind of our goal with the funding is to maintain this job that we've created for the EDC.
And I do want to point out what we did when Marla left. We took her salary and we split it out. So some for me, some to increase capacity, because that's where we ran into challenges. If we were, have support director for, we had a great director, but we didn't have the staff resources to do these types of things. So that allowed us to invest, and with your investment, we invested in staff. And because of that investment, you're looking at the progress and the result of that. We're just scratching the surface. We've only done this for 10 months.
Yeah.
So
So I want to take that and focus on programs and initiatives for 2023. So that would be our goal, is like creating that full calendar. We're actually providing programming and doing these initiatives on workforce and jobs and things like that in this following year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the EDC?
I got one. So Tim Hill mentioned this a few meetings ago, I mean, quite a while ago at this point, but it was around local workers, rather the lack of local workers and a lot of people commuting, as you said, 80%, and is on your presentation about 80%. Specifically, especially with the Latino community, what is being done currently to address that?
glad you asked. We can't report on this yet because this is quarter 3 activity, and this is what I'm talking about. I'm kidding. We're still formulating this, but right now we are, and I hope to have something to look at, like, I have a meeting with them Thursday. So, with the help of community members, because people are. She and I had this conversation months ago, and we've been really passionate about this conversation, about how do we get our workforce back home? How do we do that? In an inclusive way, in a mindful, in a way that's representative of all of us. So she, and we, and the EDC is, has, well, you don't know me. We're allocating, so we've been able to save money this year, guys. So we're gonna slide a little bit of that into this activity right here, and that's creating a social media kind of social, leaning in on that social aspect of what it means to be able to work here and not have to drive. And it's gonna be full, and it's gonna start with a local testimonial, and I can't say who, because I just would wait. I would like for our field to see that. So that people can relate of all demographics of what that really means. What does it mean? How much does it cost? What's the quality? And we really want to lean in on less about the financial gain and more about, because that's, that's a given. I mean, we all know how much gas is, but I think more than anything, it's those, the storytelling of the human aspect of not having a community. And now we can pick up kids and help her and be able to do a parent teacher conference and be a better community member. And now they have more energy to devote to city council and to Main Street board. So they all volunteer their time. I mean, I feel guilty sometimes that I get paid because they put in so much effort in this. But to answer your question, that is something as in line with goal 3. And we'll be rolling out in 2023. So you'll be seeing something on that very soon.
Perfect. Sounds like you're working with good people on that too.
Dana, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for that presentation. It was certainly an improvement over last year and contained some valuable information. And I also appreciate the increased communication between the EDC and City Council in your presentations across the year. Last year, your request was more than 50% of the amount the city had provided the year prior. And that was explained to us as you needed that money to expand. That's just what it was going to cost to hire a new executive director. And I understand from your presentation that you parlayed that into hiring more ancillary staff. My question is, what is your request this year?
The financial request?
Yes.
Yeah, we're asking from your financial investment last year is $37,500. We're asking for $45,000. That's to help offset some of these additional programming efforts and staff. But if you look at the payroll line item, year over year, we're really not spending, we're really not allocating that much more on payroll as we were in my role. We've been able to have a cheaper throughout.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the EDC?
Just comments.
Please.
These reports, these quarterly reports are very comprehensive and informative, and appreciate that effort. And also would echo the efforts of business retention and expansion and local workforce. The work on that, I think, is extremely important. We need to keep heading in that direction. So appreciate that.
I have a little different comment, although it's along those lines. There's always, as Jason said from the beginning, different people think of economic development in different ways. What does it mean to an individual? I think it has always meant for the previous three directors that they always were looking for the silver bullet. And I'll refer to that as the airport industrial park. And every one of them has run into a complete wall of the inability to make that happen. But they spent a lot of time and effort on that. And so that's why I'm in favor of the BRNE internally. Yeah, would it be nice to have a big home run of some sort? Great, but it's not forthcoming. It hasn't been really possible. So in the meantime, what we should be doing is encouraging businesses, to prosper, but also to expand if that's possible. So if we get, a couple hundred businesses to add one person, that's a home run. And I just think it's the direction maybe we should be going rather than trying to create something that just seems like it does not want to happen. So that's it. Yes, Dana.
I'd just like to, I guess, respond a bit to that. I think I would not want them to abandon the idea that we can bring in businesses from without. I think one of the reasons the past directors have run into a brick wall with that is we do not have a packet of information that outlines Leadville's demographics, the holes in our businesses that we need, that someone might find a good fit with. We just don't really have a marketing packet to attract outside businesses with. And so my question to the presenters is there any plan to put together a marketing packet to attract outside businesses? Because they're not going to just come here without being attracted. And once they get here, we should have a robust packet of information to answer their questions. And my understanding is that just has not existed.
You're right, it has not. It is something that, how we handle those, and it's been I've been executive director since January. It has been my observation that we really treat this ad hoc. And we pull a program, a packet together on an as needed basis. But so I want to kind of get into that a little bit about retention, expansion, and attraction and economic development. Most economic development staff people are trained and they get more bonus, more accolades for attraction projects. They get more points. Those economic development people focus on retention secondarily. For us, it's completely opposite. That's why a lot of directors on the list, because we were trained with them. Sorry, but expansion and attraction, sorry. This is important because, it's hard for us to attract a business when we don't have anywhere for our employees to really afford to live. It really is a unique matchmaking proposition attracting a business here. We don't go out and, attend conferences and say, come to Leadville. We're still figuring out how to house our own community right now. So we have, and through Jason's leadership, and the board's hard work in the last years is really, and our efforts this year is to focus on what we have right now. And yes, we're gonna get to a business park. That's a dream. When we can attract a business to create 50 jobs, I mean, that's what I do, but that takes time and those take efforts and it has to go in an order. So I mean, these are the efforts that we believe, as professionals that need to be our priorities first. And then we'll get to what that will look like.
Yeah, and maybe before, I think the packet is a great idea, but maybe before you get to that packet, we need to identify what we need to do and where we need to grow in order to be attractive. So what are the infrastructure pieces? What are the housing? Yeah, but how can we incentivize? What's the land use? Where could they go and all those things? So I think maybe that's the first step before you get to like that packet.
But yes, Dana, I like your thinking. It's definitely in our future.
Okay, any other questions from the EDC?
You mentioned people being housed. Is there any work around that you feel like should be done or you are currently doing around housing? Given that 57% of our local housing is secondary home owned.
That's a good question, Christian. Thank you for, we're very clear and passionate about our lane, being economic development. And so we just so happen to have a career before EDC work in the housing nonprofit national. So our lanes are very different. Here, it is a unique situation where workforce development housing does kind of lead into some of the economic development activities. We are, our board we are actively involved in conversations to make sure that we understand the impact of workforce housing on business community and our employers and our employees. So we stay informed. I attend Christie's meetings through the coalition. I'm very close with Jackie Wellhen, and we stay connected that way. We create and provide partnerships with the county and all different types of departments to communicate different types of efforts, like stakeholder surveys and housing surveys and tourism panel surveys. There was no other entity in this town doing that. And that's increased our communication engagement, and I'm not lying, it's doubled since last year this time. Our engagement went from 22% to over 45% in a year. And that's just only going to grow more and more.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
At this time, we have the Leadville Street Department budget. Tony, you're up. You can go right there. There's an open chair for you.
Okay, well, hopefully that haven't met me yet. I've been with the street department for just a little over a month now. And I'm hitting the ground running on this here. This will be the first time I've actually done a budget hearing session kind of thing like this. So I've gone over it a little bit. There are some things that we're going to be asking for increase. Mostly for gas and oil, the current prices of fuel and everything like that. We have to reduce that, especially during our winter months with everything's going. There are some other things that very minimal increases in nothing too major. We're still pretty well within our budget right now for the year. So we still got 2 months left of the year here. And winter season is enough, so I'm not sure if that's going to affect anything there. We are asking for some equipment. I believe the previous manager has been speaking to Lori and to the mayor about the back truck setup and leasing a dump truck in the next several years. is something that we're gonna need to be replacing an older, piece of equipment that we have. Right now, I believe that's pretty much what we're looking at. Within our budget right now, we're gonna be able to replace some tires and stuff that we need to right now. And that should still keep us within our budget at this point. Not sure if there's anything else that we need to add to that.
Well, I think, Mayor, I don't know if you want to talk about the highlighting pavement and what we want to try and accomplish with that. We have some
Yeah.
short-term and long-term goals.
Right, now, we did make some changes to your budget, and one of the things is, under. Sorry, lost track. Under building repair and maintenance, we've increased that to $84,000. For two reasons. Number one, we want a fan. Exhaust system. In that building, and we also are going to have to repair that roof, possibly put a new roof on.
Yeah.
So we've set aside around $60,000 for the roof and about $20,000 for the fan system, just so everybody knows what we were budgeting there. Conversely, we can go down to street capital, and we zeroed out street capital because those were last year's numbers of $80,745, and now it's zero. So a bit of an offset there. Gas and oil are up. But we still have $200,000 in here for paving. The reason we do, and we really wanted to go much higher than that this year, but we have put so much effort and money into employees this year that we're going to have to take a hard look at that and decide how we're going to handle it. How I think we're probably gonna have to handle it is leave it as it is for right now. And then if paving projects come up this next year, then we'll react to those and maybe make those, funded out of the general fund if the opportunity presents itself. We never know from one year to the next exactly what the opportunities will be, because we try and do as much as we can in partnership with the utilities to share those costs of street paving, and that went very well this year.
Yes,
We ended up paving 11 blocks.
and we should continue that with them and also talk to them with their plans out for the next season and find out what roads
Yeah.
are needed most. And that's gonna be the priority.
So I was a big fan, as you were, Max, of really increasing that. But the really significant number that's associated with wage increases probably keeps us from putting that in there this year.
And I think what we went into 2023, in good shape in a lot of ways with a lot of other areas. And we focus not as much on the shiny things this year, but a lot of cities have deferred maintenance. We don't have a ton of deferred capital maintenance. We don't own the sewer infrastructure, the water infrastructure. What we have deferred is taking care of our employees. And so what we said is, 2023 is employees first. And we're fortunate. We're in good shape. We've got good equipment that we've been able to purchase for some departments over the years. And I think what's important for 2023 is focusing on our employees and giving them a wage that they can live on in Leadville. So we are not commuting out, tying into the last presentation, but I really think that's a big deal. And I think for us to be able to make our wages equitable with our it's increases in the area, and actually make the city a place that people can afford to, if they work for the city, they can afford to live in Leadville. So I think the other issue too is we're talking about bandwidth and, brought up the issue of grants. I would love to be, and I think we're getting to be in a position where we can chase more money. There's going to be lots and lots of state and federal money for various things coming down the pipeline, and we want to be poised. Maida is training Hannah on how to, write grants. We're jumping on some grants right now. So I'm hoping that, I don't know if there's going to be money for street paving, but there may be money for active transportation. There may be money for safe routes to schools, that is stuff that we can, money that we can potentially leverage into improving our streets and our sidewalks, which I think definitely needs to happen. And so I think our short-term plan is, as much as we can to stay the course with our paving, as much as we can in conjunction with utilities, but also longer-term plan, looking at how, if we want to do really repave all the streets, do we want to put out a bond measure to do that? And do we need to? So that's something that I think is a longer discussion. But I would love to see more streets paved.
I would just say, keeping it $200,000, we're actually not able to keep up. We're actually losing money in the paving department. $200,000, you don't get as much 2 years ago. So I would anticipate, I would ask for the budget to increase the paving fund by at least $50,000 this year. That's me personally, because everything else, cost of gas, cost of food, cost of paving has gone up. So it's actually a net loss if we keep it the same.
You're absolutely correct. I totally agree with you. I really wanted this to be a much bigger line item. But as Laura just pointed out, we put so much emphasis on trying to pay people competitively in this marketplace that it left us with the inability to do that unless we go outside this budget, unless we go to the general fund right off the bat and say, okay, we'll commit $500,000 to paving, but it's not going to come strictly from the budget, which makes me a little nervous. So,
Dana has her hand up.
Dana? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Dana. Yes, please.
Thanks. Just a couple things. One is, responding to Max, I'm kind of interested in exploring this idea of actually municipally bonding some money for paving. I'd like to explore that at some point, certainly not tonight. Because I agree, $200,000 it's not going to get us anywhere. My question though is the salary increases, is that all just increases with the same number of workers and now we're finally staffed? Or is that an increase from anything else, like a part-time person or?
It's a combination, Dana, of significant increases in terms of pay. Most of that really is cost of living. From the first of last year until the end of this year, we have an inflation rate of at least 9.1%, and it might even be higher than that by the end of the year. So we did a 4% COLA in July. We're doing another 5% COLA now to the first of the year. So that's 9%. We hope that keeps people as whole as we can make them, although it's a huge lift financially. And then we also have merit increases based on reviews of up to 3%. So the numbers are really staggering, but in my mind and I think Lori's mind, absolutely necessary. We're a little tired of a city where people are just, looking for an opportunity to go somewhere else where they can make more money.
Yeah, and I think to answer Dana's question about the hiring, so if you're looking at most of our departments, they are, we have some that are harder to keep employees just because of the nature of the work, but I would say we're not adding any FTE, full-time equivalents to departments. So streets is fully staffed right now. Police is not asking for any more FTE. They're down a CSO, community service officer, so they want to hire animal control. They're not asking for any additional FTE. Admin's not asking for any additional FTE.
Well, but to Dana's point, we have added a planner
Well,
to those numbers.
and those carry
yeah.
over to 2023 for sure, but in 2023, we don't have, I think we're going into 2023, hopefully, with the FTE we want.
Thank you.
We're getting away from the street department. I mean,
That is true.
I would like to have this salary discussion, which I know I'm going to be on the losing end of. However, I think we should probably go and allow.
Well, yeah,
Street department.
Tony, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think pretty much we covered it all, just,
Okay.
looking at the back, it's not actually a whole truck, it's just a attachment to a front truck that we have that we can take the box off, put the back on. We would use that to clean culverts and stuff like that are plugged right now. And we have several roads around town that are causing some problems. Springtime is gonna be a real pain. We've got some issues with property owners and stuff, that it's gonna be a lot easier to have a backup instead of trying to use heavy equipment to get in there. So that would be the positive part of that, you know, the price on them, I believe we have something someplace. Not able to get it to, with some prices.
We do, we don't have it here. It's not really part of this budget unless it, as it turns out, we can afford to do that. So, you know, to Lori's point, the new shiny things are kind of taking a backseat at this point. So, any questions for the street department about anything in their operational budget?
Just a comment, I really appreciate Tony, this is a month in and he's jumped in with both feet with the budget, so I appreciate him, getting up to speed and.
Learning quite a bit, and I'm glad that you're helping so much.
Any other questions for street department? Okay, thank you very much, Tony. And thank you for the course correction
Making sure
on
we
that.
didn't have him sitting up there when we were missing some bins.
Okay. Next up. We have the Leadville Lake County Fire Rescue.
Thank you, Mark. All right, good evening, everybody. Bless you.
Thank you.
Something's going on.
No, I usually just sneeze 6 times every day, so that, I'm suppressing 4 more for the sake of your presentation.
You'll see before you, there's this packet here. Most of it's just general information that I give out every year. The strategic plan update, which I plan to overhaul in depth in 23. So hopefully you'll see a different strategic plan next year because we have some additions to our operations that need to be added to that. And it's just going to change. The intergovernmental agreements in here, some of the goals that we presented during that goal meeting. And then the budget that's in this packet is not the updated one. That's on page 16 on the one that Donna provided. If you want to follow along with that one, we're doing the budget here. And then there's a salary study that was done by Salida, the city of Salida. And there's some information to just browse over at your leisure, and then some current capital that we had done in 22. The type 1 engine, the type 3 engine. Those are the things that were in the operational budget last year and this year, or I'm sorry, this year and then next year, and then continuous until we get those paid off. Also, in the very back side of that capital form, you'll see the apparatus replacement sheet. In the apparatus replacement, the next 2 pieces of equipment that kind of need to be on our forefront is engine 603, that's a type 6 engine, and then the truck itself, and that's the big ladder truck. We won't go new, of course, with the ladder truck because that'd be probably about $1.8 million. Yeah, it is. Yeah, wow, it is unbelievable. I'm thinking something like a refurbishment on the truck, or maybe something on the used market that might suit us. But those are conversations that I'll have with the management board and council and everybody as those times fit into our slot, and also we get down some of those payments on these past 2 pieces of equipment that we purchased. So, oh, I will add one more thing to that. Engine 603 actually belongs to the county, and I've been in contact with Michael from Public Works to see whether or not we can do some kind of lease plan on that piece of equipment. We'll buy the apparatus itself, and then we'll build out the boxes for the type 6. So, all right, so budget. And Dana, I'll go ahead and put one of these packets in your box here. I apologize, I didn't get it out. Yes. So the budget itself. When I did some where am I notes going? Page 16, that's where we're at. So the decreases in total in the budget, in the operational budget was about 87,917. That's minus the salary line item of 5,000. So everything within the budget decrease was 87,917. On the flip side of that, the increase was 79,895. So that's about roughly $8,000 decrease in the overall budget. But that's shifting a lot of things around in the actual operational budget on what the needs are for operations and what has already been provided in the past couple of years, going through the budget session and being able to fine tune this budget down to, really in fine detail on what we actually spend every year for operations. One of the unique things in this budget that you'll see is that it was added in line 6309 on the second page on 17. We took 27,000 out of the rescue line item that we ended up purchasing a combination tool, which is a tool that cuts up vehicles. It actually cuts and spreads. It's a combination tool that we purchased last year for the Type 3 engine. We took that 27,000 out of that and reallocated 25,000 for equipment for capital in the future. So that 100,000 that you see above it, the 125,000 total is what we've agreed to set aside so we can start banking up some funding for some of the equipment replacement. So if you would like me to, I'll just highlight some areas here, and I'll start kind of in that first section and call out, I wanted to decrease it by 2,000 because with Station 2 coming on board, those are when we have an emergency and we go outside of the downtown area into Lake County, and we need to be able to have secondary response. We call for a fallback, and off-duty personnel, if we have people living here, they are called in, they come in, they get 2 hours of overtime while they're covering district for us. So that's what that is, but I'm going to reduce that because Station 2 is now going to be kind of our standby station. Sometimes when those people that are down at the station are trained up to a certain level. So I anticipate that going down. One of the questions I had, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, Donna, but 5150, the insurance went from, there was a significant decrease in that. Is that based on current people that have it in the organization?
It is, yes.
Great, that's good. That's good. All right, so that was about a $26,000 decrease there. Gas and oil, of course, I think we all are feeling it at the pump. We increased that to 10,000. We can be hopeful that will go down in the next year or so. Building repairs and maintenance, 6216. I dropped that a couple of thousand. We don't really have a lot of major repairs to do with the station currently. And again, well, one of the things I do want to do is I want to be able to, in the Bay Area, expose all of the sheetrock where the lines go, because we keep having leaks and plumbing issues. If the plumber just comes in and saws a little hole in it, and oh, that wasn't it, so I'm going to go saw over here. I'm just going to remove all that sheetrock, and then we'll probably put some access panels in there to be able to just access all of that plumbing. It makes the greatest sense. So I'll use some of that for that. And if there's enough left over, I'd like to be able to replace either our front door or our back door, or at least fix the locks, because they don't really close right. The door is kind of offset, and it's I wish it was a quick fix, but it's all metal. So it depends on what time of year, expansion with top hole glass, all of that. So we'll try to figure out something to do with the doors on the building. So station furniture with the donations that we received for Station 2, we should be able to reduce that by 1,000. Because I anticipate that we should be able to get enough furniture for Station 2 and the donations that we got from VA 3 years ago, that we've moved twice now from the airport and into a shipping container. That we have enough office furniture that from that donation, that we'll be able to take care of Station 1 and Station 2. That's it. This buffer here is to, if something breaks unexpectedly or something like that. Legal services, decreased by 10,000. I don't really anticipate any legal matters, but you know, as they arise, we can have discussion.
And that this past year was mostly review, contract review for some of the bigger purchases.
It was that and the IGA with the hospital.
Gotcha. Right.
Those types of things. So page 2, I've already discussed the 100,000 and 25,000 be able to be set aside. We will transfer that in the fire fund at some point. Physicals, 9,200 at 6,403. So the hospitals had some change. It's no longer Dr. Lisa's office, Rocky Mountain Family Practice. There was a certain amount that they were billing us when we were doing those 15 NFPA 1582 physicals. But now we just went through St. Vincent's health process with the new clinic and also with the new hospital. So I don't know what that cost is yet. I'll have those statistics for 2024. But actually, I'll have them this year, but I don't know exactly what they will be. And I'm hoping that it's around 9,200.
I would say this is an interruption. At least we're not having to send people out of town for physicals anymore, which we used to have to do.
That's correct. Yeah, we used to go to CSU and it cost a fortune. Hotels, travel, all of that. So, yeah, we actually really cut that money a lot. Computer software. About 4,000 decrease. And this is an interesting one. So volunteer other 6701, that's to support the residency program. Under the SAFER grant for those 4 years, we were spending approximately about 128,000 under that grant. And what we decided once that grant ran out was to fund it 59,000 out of the operational fund and 40,000 out of the fire fund. The fire fund is the money that we receive from contract work, etc. For a total of 99 to try to get to that 128. Well, what we found out is we were able to work with CMC a little more and do some things internally more so, and actually be able to reduce it even more so. So with Station 2 coming on board, we spend roughly 24,000 on housing right now. And typically it's been about 3 residents. We've had up to 5 during that time frame, but it fluctuates. So we've been trying to stay steady with 3 at least, but it's costing 24,000. So 10,000 of the reduction here is because of the housing, but we anticipate by having more rooms available at a firehouse to be able to retain more residents. So the educational costs will go up. So the housing costs will go down, but the educational costs will go up. And again, we provide up to an associate's degree in fire science, a meal stipend while they're on monthly, a stipend while they're on shift of $80, and that's to pitch in for dinners and etc. And then some technical training like auto extrication, rope rescue, those types of things. And in turn, they give us time on the engine company, they get on the job training. And then once they get to a certain point, then they're actually really able to fold into our operations with the trained engine company, and we can utilize them for our community for response. So that's kind of how that works. So I want to be able to see how that goes. I really think that we'd be able to stay within budget, considering At actual in August, we spent 27,000, so. PPE, this was an interesting one. I didn't know, I mean, I know, we all know that there's been increases on everything, the inflation costs, but PPE for some reason, went through the roof. And that's our personal protective equipment. That's just the structural firefighting gear, not the wildland or any rescue equipment or anything, or rescue PPE or anything like that. So I had 4 sets priced out and we were getting 4 for about 13, actually about 15. You see the actual there. And now it's 19. So it's about 18.9, and that's a little buffer for like gloves or hoods or, you know, something like needs throughout the year. So I increased that one just a little bit. And then minor equipment, I wanted to decrease that one by 3,000, but because of the equipment that we've been able to plan for with the type 1 and the type 3. We were able to put equipment to equip the type 3. So all the loose equipment on that, like the 27,000 that we did for the spreaders, for instance. So the type 3 would be fully equipped. And then we also put a buffer of 100,000 in with the type 1 engine to be able to get equipment. So what that did is it gave us an update on our actual operational equipment, which is really nice. Because a lot of it's very, very old, like the airbags that we lift very, very heavy things with. I'm surprised those haven't popped and hurt somebody. They're very good, but we're gonna use them on our second due. Unfortunately, they're made out of Kevlar, which should be good. We get them tested every year, but that's just an example. Some of that equipment is very old, 40, 50 years old. So by upgrading that equipment, I wanted to be able to reduce that line on because I don't foresee us, doing a lot of equipment replacement in 23. We do need a flow meter. And that will give us our actual GPM flows on our hand lines at 2.5 inch and 3/4, all of that. And also we may be able to assist some subdivisions and also maybe Parkville water for GPM flows. On that note, real quick side note, I am having a meeting with ISO here pretty soon. So we'll get a protection class rating sometime in January, I believe. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for the fire department's operation budget? I have one real quick. I'll get it started. You have hose on here. And you've hardly used any of that ever in any given year.
Yep.
That's it?
Yeah. So hoses like the foam on there. It's that same kind of line item. If it's used and it gets, it bursts, a car runs over it during a structure fire. Those types of things.
You got a bunch of hose from Buena Vista, right?
We did.
What's the condition of all that hose that you?
So we've tested it. It's old hose. We will have a purpose for it. But it's not, it doesn't have the kind of GPM flow when we do our hydraulics calculations at our pumps to what we currently have on our engines. So the engineers would have to have different pump charts, different flows, different pressures.
Do the new piece of equipment, type 3 and type 1, that we're going to get sometime in the next 5 years? Do they come with hose?
No, so that's a part of the equipment package. We are
Like the $100,000 equipment package.
correct, and the 46,000.
Okay.
We will be getting cross lays. Now, some of that hose that we use for BB, it can be used for supply because it's not a tack.
Okay.
So we will be able to use something for this.
But the hose from BV, sorry to belabor it, but that's been tested, right?
Yeah,
And it's good enough.
yeah, it's good. It's good for a lot of reasons. We can use it at the training center, we can use it for supply, we can use it for training evolutions, for attack lines. Some of it we can use operationally. So
Okay,
right
thank you.
now it's just stacked on the other side of the truck.
All right. Any questions for the fire department? I'll just ask you a general question. Do you feel like this budget reflects the needs for the additional support needed in station number 2?
So what we have done, what we did 2 years ago, I think, or was it 3? I don't know, it could have been 5 years ago. We looked at the cost of, remember when we were spending 19,200, was it down?
Yeah.
19,200 for Station 2 down here. And what we did is we reallocated some of that funding back into the operation of the budget in utilities and some other areas within the budget itself to be able to take care of some of those costs for that facility. Like if you look at the utilities line, just for. an
Yeah, I see it's right at
example,
the top there. We had the $31,000 last year, but then we thought Station 2 would be up last year also.
Right. What's the
So,
line item you had there?
oh, well, it's line item 6240.
Yeah, 60-40, yeah. So if you see here in 21, it was in 21. We went from 19 to 31. In anticipation that that station was going to open this year.
Do you have any idea, since Station 2 is all electric, any projection of what utility costs are going to be?
No, I've never been given those, but I do anticipate looking at getting a grant for solar. That's one of the things that that's on my list.
Are you talking on-site solar or solar that would be just a grid share?
It would be on site.
Okay.
So either on the roof or wherever it makes sense down there. If it's ground, it's gotta be ground. Either way.
Okay. I think it's probably a really good idea.
Oh, speaking of grants, since you sparked that thought, just real quick, tactical tender, we have 2 more payments on it. You'll find out on the capital page. We pay for that out of the fire fund balance of $28,900 a year. For a total of like $212,000, we put a down payment on there, but we only financed 170 something thousand of it. We have 2 more payments left on that. We pay for that every year out of the fire fund balance. So Station 2, once we work with the county on what that cost would, when that payment needs to be started, given back to the county on that share portion that we have. That's $42,600.
But that's in the budget now.
It's in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the budget.
Right.
So then there'll be grants throughout the year. If we were awarded like AFG, that's a 5% match, BFA, which I'm having Hannah work with me right now. I've got to submit that on Wednesday. That's a 50% match sometimes, but normally that's for operational radios, that kind of thing. It can be anywhere from 14 up to 20,000. So that's a 50% match, and we take all this out of the fire fund balance. And disease and prevention, normally there's not a grant match with that. And then mitigation grants. Hopefully I'll be able to put in for the forest mitigation grant for the trailers to be able to do kind of like what a Chafee Chip program is going on down in Chafee County, where they drop a trailer off, or they pick up, or they give it a subdivision and pick up their slack for them.
What are you going to do for a chipper?
Well, we're gonna, hopefully the county, maybe that's a question for Tim or Sarah over there, that if the air burner was ever approved for the. It
Yeah,
was
we should be getting it at the end of November.
wonderful. So there's a.
You're actually going to get the unit?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's great. So the idea with that would be, to give this community members, pick up their slash, bring it up there, burn the air burner.
You need the trailers to move the slash to the air burner.
Correct.
Where's the air burner, where's the air burner gonna be?
A lot of community members don't have a way to move or haul slash out. That's one of the bigger problems. Now, I anticipate one air burner is not gonna take care of all of it, so we'll have to be creative. Look at other ways to get chippers, see, CMC has a chipper that the community members, Colorado State Forest Service does a chipping program as well. Because we're gonna be,
Yeah, I heard the CMC has one they don't use. Is that correct information?
sure they use it. Yeah, and they,
Oh, underutilized, okay.
Yeah.
Offering next department.
yeah, they like C4 uses it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, down there on.
We're going to.
Interesting.
So, we have those grant matches that, we have to anticipate with the fire fund balance. Currently right now, from the deployments that we've been on, the projected revenue is 102,383.18. This was from last year or this year's, wildland fire deployments. So that'll be added to the fire fund balance, which is roughly 200,000. So we could say that we have about 300,000 in there. Now, one more thing that I'll say about that, we're purchasing everything out of the fire fund balance right now. All of the equipment, all of the Station 2 things that are, that we're getting paid back from Friends of Twin Lakes. So I'm buying all the equipment like gear lockers and if you were to take Station 2 and shake and turn it upside down and shake it, and all the loose equipment, that's what I'm purchasing right now out of the fire fund balance. And then we have about 80-something thousand from donations from the community members that I'll ask Friends of Twin Lakes to reimburse us for. But that money's coming out of there, all of the equipment for the type 1 and the type 3. So you'll see some major expenses coming out of the fire fund balance, and we're gonna end up going negative in it. But I'll invoice before the end of the year. I'll try to promise that, Donna.
So the federal government has not been invoiced for the deployments this year, is that what I understand?
They have,
Oh,
they have.
so what are you talking about?
We're waiting on, oh no, you're talking about this, the 102? I'm talking about like all of the purchasing that we're doing right now from the type 1, the type 3, Station 2. And the CMC, because the intergovernmental agreement that we have a CMC, they give us $6,000 a year to support all the consumables at a Headwaters Training Center. So all of those expenses are coming out of the fire fund balance. Those invoices just need to go out. We just haven't purchased all of it yet.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the fire department? Okay, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Chapin, you're up.
Follow along with me, it's lines, do you have line numbers in here? Okay. It's line 268, but that doesn't look like you have line numbers, so it's right after Main Street and Fort Police.
148,
148.
1-40-8.
So this is, of course, the first planning department budget. We've been here 2 months now, so we're moving something around. Hopefully this is straightforward. And the total 142,768. Starting off with me plus the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission. Both of those commissions fall under the planning department's realm, particularly in the local municipal code. So with my benefits, et cetera, that total.
Thank you guys for being here.
Never stay?
Yeah, right, it was pretty simple. So that totals out for me plus the Historic Preservation Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission, that totals out at 124. About 31,000 of that is the $200 a month allocated to the 7 I'm sorry, the 7 historic preservation commissioners and the 6 planning and zoning commissioners. That does not include the mayor, who serves as the 7th member on that commission. For education and travel conferences, et cetera, that's 2,000. And typically do 2,000 or two conferences per year to maintain my required credentials for my licensure. 600 is my American Institute of Certified Planners membership. Donna, just note, the code amendments, consultants and professional services, those amounts actually need to be switched. So it'd be basically 7,400 for Christiana. That's, I'm anticipating 40 hours. That's allocating 40 hours of her billable hours for next year for various legal services. And then 5,000 for code consultants. We don't know exactly what that will be. How much of our code members are working on right now will roll into next year, or any consultants that we'll be using when we have an allowance for that. That includes anything that comes up next year that the council tasked me with processing of the code amendment for. 3,000 for the Community Justice Center engineering. For that project, we will have engineering plans that are submitted with their active application for their conditional use permit, subdivision, et cetera, which we will need to have a third-party consultant engineer review. We can hopefully be efficient and use the engineering services the county is already paying for. But I'm anticipating there may be some things that I need to have an engineer on our side verify. So I'm allocating 3,000 for that. We've committed to that to the county. Legal publications for public hearings at 500, and that wraps it up. So our total of 142,000. I can take any questions.
Any questions for Chapin and the planning department?
But there's one thing I'd like to add. I forgot to mention this. So right now, our public hearing application fees are $125. I don't think that has been updated in a while. We also, per code right now, require a consultant reimbursement agreement that's codified because for me, there wasn't a planning staff person to process subdivision applications and any kind of zoning permit application. So right now, an applicant is essentially paying $2,000 for their consultant deposit plus $125 application fee, so $2,125. I did a little bit of quick research, and some other communities like Salida, for example, for a public hearing, they charge a $1,250 application fee. EV charges $1,100 public hearing application fee. So there's the potential to going into next year to increase application fees for public hearings. Consider you're no longer charging a $2,000. There's no longer a need to charge a $2,000 consultant reimbursement agreement fee or deposit. So that could potentially, I guess, increase the small amount of revenue for the planning department.
Well, and fees are generally, they're to cover our own costs, so they're not necessarily revenue generators, but they will cover, the cost of publication in the Herald. They will cover staff time costs. And I think what Chapin's trying to point out is that we're not really, we'll discuss this when we talk about fees, but there's no way $121 is covering the cost of any portion of the time and money that we're putting into this. And so comparison to other communities, we're very, very low. And I think it's time we do take a broader look at these, because when we're talking about salaries and we're talking about, we need someone to do this and this and this, if there's a fee that we're asking someone to pay, the point of the fee is to cover all or part of that cost. So if we implement a program, so for example, short-term rentals, we can charge a fee that covers the cost of administering that program. And we probably should be better at taking a look at our fees and comparing them to similar communities, and also making sure that they're for some places, we're gonna ask people to start tracking their hours, just so we can show how much time and money we're spending on certain things. And so that's the whole point of, bringing Chapin in, is that he's, on staff to help with these things. But On the other hand, the flip side is now we're only getting $125 per application.
That actually makes a lot of sense in terms of they were paying somebody to do the review, usually somebody that we hired as a subcontractor.
Correct.
So how would it cover, so that might cover site reviews, you know? But how would it recover engineering reviews of SIA agreements?
That we can still require that consultant.
That's a separate-
If
Yeah.
needed,
Okay,
for most public hearings, we will not need that. So for example, you just authorize essentially paying, you know, I guess $700 per planning commission meeting to the commission. So for one public hearing at planning commission, that's $700. So increasing the application fee to, you know, $700 or more would help offset the fee that you're, I guess, paying for the zone commission. That's one way to look at that.
any questions? I have one, the code amendments and consultants, so I'm assuming that part of this is the table of uses update. Is that part of your thinking on this?
Not necessarily, no, I think I'm expecting that there are going to be code amendments that will be needed to the subdivision and zoning code.
Why wouldn't those just be under legal services?
Because we, you know, we may use consultants to go out and look at our code and analyze our code.
Okay. Well, we are in the middle of updating our table of uses, so do we think that will be accomplished by the end of this year?
It's gonna be tight,
Okay,
but I'm hoping so. I'm trying to move
All
all
right.
these code amendments that have been backlogged,
gotcha.
you know, forward by the end of the year, so at least they're in Christina's court
Thanks, just curious.
and out of consultants' courts. But
And that may not come as a surprise, but our code needs definite update. We talked about this on our sign code, we talked about it. Planning code is probably one of the most heavily used parts of our code. And probably the most in need of constant revision, and we have neglected it a lot.
Is
So-
planning included in chapter 17?
it's title 16 and
Oh, title
which is subdivision and title 17, which is zoning.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for planning? Thank you, Jacob.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're glad to have them. Glad to have you all on board.
At this time, is there anything else we'd like to discuss before we go any further? I would like to, you know, kind of back to the fire department budget. I did suggest to Commissioner Fiedler, it was just a conversation, so we're not committed to it. But the county has really wanted a point person to work on their wildfire mitigation, okay? And they don't have that person, and Dan's asked them about 17 times, who is that person gonna be? And they still don't have that person. They still don't know. So I said to Commissioner Fiedler, I said, what if we just put that person in the fire department budget? Then it becomes a shared cost and we have that person. That at this point, it's just a suggestion. The county might have to come back to us and say, we think that's a good idea and we might have to put it in this budget. But it's not cheap, as you can imagine, to put that person in play. In fact, you might be able to give some insights in what it might cost us to hire someone who would be that point person for mitigation.
Wasn't the county working on that as well?
Who?
The county?
Yeah.
So, not that I know
They just don't have an answer. Yeah, the answer is yes. They're working on it. You know, this has obviously been, you know, a hot button issue for Commissioner Mudd. She really wants this to happen. I don't blame her. She's not wrong. But coming up with the person and the money to make it all happen is really the issue. So,
I think it's important to have that. I thought the county was working on it. I would think it would be good to have it in the fire department's organization.
Yeah, it would make sense. So currently right now, I don't know if everybody knows this portion of this, but you know, in Chapin County, they have a division, Chapin County. And Cindy Williams is that's their director, and he kind of facilitates that on the level. But how they pay for it is they went for an initiative 3 years ago. And that all passed, and it's for like taking care of a few different things like housing, fire mitigation, a couple other.
But it was $2 million a year is what they got.
And so
for that.
they split, yeah, exactly. So they split that money up, and then that's how they take care of that and hiring that person.
Proper thought on that. Colorado State University has extension office, does fund positions for wildfire mitigation. In.
Really?
In county offices. That's how Dan Schroeder with Summit County Government. That's how his position is funded.
Yeah, so we have that.
Okay.
It was JT Shaver,
Okay.
and now it's Josh. He's so new, I don't know his last name, but he's local here.
Oh, okay.
But he doesn't, that person in specifically wouldn't handle the taking care of all of the CWPP needs. Okay. That's my understanding.
So they've already funded that person exists.
That person here isn't.
I mean, it's,
is in town.
In Summit County, the extension agent, if you will, he does do oversee the whole CWPP program.
The whole thing.
From what I understand, yeah.
Really?
well, we should check into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
to get more information on that.
I think they're all wrong, that's my understanding.
No, that's, no, I'm sorry.
No, don't feel terrible about it. Wrong. Being wrong is just fine, believe me. I have
But I'm
plenty
just
of
gonna
practice.
answer your question. We may have something here.
Yeah.
Very good. We still have a lot to consider in this budget. We've heard from a lot of people. We have to crunch some numbers and see what's possible at this point in time. Lori and I have to crunch some numbers. So we hope in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna be able to come back to you with some suggestions about how we go about this and make it work.
Yeah, we feel very fortunate that, you know, the city is in a good financial position, but we want to sharpen our pencils on this budget some more. And, you know, make some revisions but we like the overall trend of where things are going as far as, you know, it's really nice to be so close to being fully staffed. We get there and we backtrack and we get there and backtrack a little bit, but I feel like we're making progress in that
Should I
area.
talk about this? Sean? Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but so in light of everything everybody's heard tonight or in previous weeks, is there anything that has occurred to you as a city council that we're missing? That maybe should be in this budget, as long as it doesn't cost more than about $3, just to be clear. Anything that you feel like maybe we're missing the mark on?
I do have a question before I have a suggestion, and I just want to ask, I mean, I understand the fact that, you know, we're focusing on our employees this year. The question I have for you is the salaries that we're asking for, does it include a cost of living adjustment mid-year this coming fiscal year, or is it just one COLA at the beginning of the year?
Well,
I have an opinion on that. I think because of what we're doing and how aggressive we're being, I don't think we can consider a mid-year 2023 cost of living adjustment.
Okay, because that's what I know we talked about, and that's something that
I agree.
we've thrown a lot of salary at folks, and I think that's great. I mean, I just will say that, like, you know, and I've talked to the mayor about this a little bit, is that coming from the federal government, it's hard for me to see these massive increases in wages, just because I'm in a federal system that only allows certain growth over time, and to see something go out of this greater, I'm glad that we have the flexibility to do so. But I mean, I'll just say that, like, the district ranger here that's responsible for 300,000 acres, 300,000 acres in Lake County makes less than the captains at the fire. fire department.
And I mean, I work for the federal government.
I know, I just think I'm-
$50,000 less a year than I made in the federal government. I think the point we have here is the federal government has a way of providing step increases. And they do that over time and it's systematic and happens no matter what. And it may be a little amount of money, but I think that's what I'm saying about our deferred maintenance with our employees is that we've languished sometimes with our employees to the point where we do need to play catch up and we need to play catch up. Otherwise, we're just gonna be on a treadmill. And so we met with the fire union today to talk about some things and they, I wasn't aware of this, but it's not surprising. 2 years bringing a new employee on board before they're actually a truly functioning firefighter. So if we are losing people every 2 years, we're losing, we talked about losing ground. I think unfortunately, the cost of bringing people on and training them and then losing them is becoming so hard on the city that we just can't. We're not providing effective service if we're constantly doing.
Like I said, I'm for, like I said, I think I bet on the wrong horse working for the federal government is what I'm saying. I mean, that's my career path.
Well, we have to hiring a wildland.
I mean, and like what I'm saying is that I'm saying that like, for me, who's spent his career in the federal government, waiting for COLA or, you know, a pay increase every 2 years or every 3 years, it's hard to digest, you know, the fact that,
Yeah.
you know, you have those types of things. And so I'm glad to know that we're trying to make the adjustment early and then we're not continuing to throw money. Because we do have that incentive policy coming on board that we still haven't enacted. We've already voted on that for the following year. And I'm glad that we are supporting our employees. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Enough sometimes is enough, and I'm glad we're taking the
Well,
time out on them mid-year.
Not only is enough, I think we're being so aggressive this year. I get it. And by the way, the aggressiveness that we're showing puts us in probably the lower half of the SLIDA study that we were looking at in terms of average salaries in different
Mid-bottom.
employment.
Mid to bottom.
Mid to bottom. So we're not exactly, you know, hitting it out of the park. But also to your point, I think if next year inflation is still 9%, we're done. There's no way we can keep doing this. It's unsustainable. So that's my opinion. Dana, yes, please.
Yeah, Max, maybe you should consider joining the private sector. That's not really what I raised my hand to say. Yes, I think the wage increases are a little breathtaking, but they also make sense to me. I am wondering what people's thoughts are on Main Street and EDC, because they also had pretty substantial increases in their asks. Main Street is a 30% increase from last year. EDC somewhat less. And looking at the numbers, I think both are valuable to the city for sure. Main Street probably has a little easier job in demonstrating what they do with some of the funds because they produce things like the flowers and the parklets and the restroom, etc. And that's easy to visualize and see where some of those funds go. They're also very good at raising their own funds and have several mechanisms to do that. But I'm just wondering what people think about a 30% increase to their funding. And then as far as the EDC, who has a harder job kind of selling what they do with city monies, I do get kind of a feeling that they have been a little bit of a pinball, had a bit of a pinball approach, like throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Their increase this year isn't quite as much, but because the county's funding hasn't changed, it would now put us over 30% of like how, how we typically split things with the county. I know that's not what EDC was based on, but we typically do a 30-70 split. And so I'm just, I just want to know what people think about those increases.
Okay, let's ask, let's just go
me.
around the table, if it's okay, Max and then Christian.
I think they have valuable services. I'm gonna defer to Tim. However, I always wonder about the EDC and why they don't have more fundraising. Their membership and the amount of income they come in is a lot less than what the county and city does. So I'm always asking for an economic development council. Shouldn't they be able to generate more revenue than just ask the two biggest pots in the county for additional money? And I think that's where we were last year, and why we didn't raise their amount was because we're like, hey. However, I know you're on that as a member, and I want to hear your thoughts, and I'm really going to be referring to Tim on.
Tim?
The EDC is asking for an additional $7,500.
Yep.
Which to me is pretty nominal compared to what they do, although I'm not really clear as to how good they are at leveraging the funds that they get. Like as opposed to Main Street, they get the grant for the parklet and donations for the flowers, hold the live auction as a fundraiser. So I guess I would be a little more interested in how they're doing leveraging those funds, which I'm unclear.
Okay, thank you. Christian?
I think I'm hopeful that some of those funds would be used for addressing some of those issues, specifically around local workforce. I think that's a must and a need in our community. I don't think anyone would ever fight that. But yeah, it's 30%. Or 7,500 is a fair amount. It's not the most, but it's enough to kind of wonder, like, what is it that you're actually gonna do going forward? Obviously, we got the whole plan, but I'm interested in seeing them. They're working with the right people in my mind, so I'm willing to take that risk to say maybe, they'll succeed and great things will come out, but admittedly without something like super concrete, because they are in the place that they're in, of either how to increase their own revenues or have a direct result from it. It is, I would say, a risk, but one that I'd be willing to take.
But I would also echo that I do like the new direction that the EDC is taking with local workforce, business retention, expansion. As opposed to, as Dennis said, Dana brought up the point of attracting new businesses, but I think the focus needs to be in our local workforce.
I tend to agree with that, and I think I expressed that I've watched 3 previous directors fail. And because I think they were trying to accomplish the wrong thing. That's just an opinion
Well,
based on my
and
observations.
Like Nancy said, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
For an EDC director to not want to attract new business, but.
Yeah. I'll tell you one of the things I'm really interested in right now, and they're doing it tomorrow, the future of work. That really fascinates me, because it's about the entirety of workforce, not just sending everybody to college. It's about how do you get young people engaged in meaningful career opportunities that are not associated with college or with degrees. And I think that's where we're going with that. They're talking about internships, and really through this program, and CMC's on board with this, and so is the high school, to put this on. I think it may be the most meaningful thing they've done, just as a possibility. We don't know what the outcome is going to be.
I 100% agree. I recently graduated from high school 5-6 years ago, so it's something that was definitely lacking. in our times, to have a program where you can just go into a career path that makes sense for you, that isn't college oriented. We focus so much on college that we often forget there's a fair amount of jobs that don't require it.
And jobs that pay better than college graduates.
Yeah, so I like the idea of that focus, and I agree. That was a huge surprise to me that I'm like, wow, that's a really nice program. I'd like to see is to go back to those days when we had a carpentry, more construction program in the high school. I think that's really valuable.
Any last thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Max.
Mayor, you know, one thing that I like I said, like, there's a big balance in this budget that we have to take. I mean, and I'll get back to my point, all kidding aside, I'm glad that we're focusing on our employees. I think that's important. I also think we have to focus on our community and the services we're providing our communities to. And I know that we have, like, the fire department, they're doing a great job, police department, you know, keeping us safe, responding to emergencies, street department, all the you know, plowing they do, maintenance and the cover cleaning. And, you know, that's where but like, how would we take some of this tax base and give it back to the community? And that's why I do like the idea of the paving fund. And I knew it's over $200,000, you know, and you're hearing me again, and I know that, Dana, you're saying, well, why don't we start bonding? But I don't think we're gonna have a bond in our future next year, right? That could be like a 3 to 5 year plan, maybe, perhaps. So how can we do that? Furthermore, maybe it's not just paving that I'm interested in. I'm not kidding. I do not believe there's a single whole block of sidewalks in the entire city of Leadville where you can walk around an entire block on a sidewalk that doesn't have any blemish to it. And some of these are very important. And I'm curious, like, I'm thinking about how we can take some of this tax revenue and make it so it's a benefit to all, and also perhaps offset some of the costs, because I know we're not responsible for sidewalks. However, I think sometimes we have a
But you know as well as I
responsibility.
do, there's 3 blocks along Poplar. We paid that
Yeah.
ourselves. So we're not,
Exactly.
wasn't supposed to be our cost, but it was.
I think we do what we've asked some of our partners to do, which is leverage the money, which is apply for safe routes to schools, apply for, you know, transportation infrastructure funding, and use our general funds for the local match.
Yep, and the problem we have is that nobody's doing the safe route to schools, and we haven't put in a single sidewalk except for on Poplar.
Well, we're
Right, and
trying
so-
to change the grant writing and ability. I mean, it is, you know, we've been in triage. It is basically getting the bare bones of city business done. We haven't had the luxury to have someone apply for a grant, to have a body.
I will say, we used to have a safe route to school committee. This was like 6 years ago, and they went nowhere. They
Yeah,
didn't really
exactly.
do anything, and it didn't help us.
And I guess my point being is that, like, you know, I know that we're in triage mode. We can hide behind triage mode, Lori, but we could also do things at the same time, right? And
Well,
so,
actually, we don't have, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, really, literally, I mean, you know, if I get a notification that a grant is due on September 30th, and I literally can't think of a single person I can tap to do that.
I would say this, and I do have a suggestion to make along these lines, and that is, I could not agree more. And that is, maybe we put the $500,000 in this budget. And then we understand that that's not within the budgetary limits that we have set for ourselves. And we know we're gonna dip into the general fund to, you know, to make that happen. I can live with that because we might have to dip into the general fund to make it happen anyway, if we have the opportunities next summer.
I just don't know how else to do it. I mean, you've heard this before. Then I'm sounding like a broken record, and sometimes being a broken record, you start to water down your message a little bit. But there are some key points that I feel as a city, it's just unconscionable that we do not have a place for people to walk down a sidewalk, right? 2 businesses from Main Street. I'm thinking down on I'm gonna get it wrong, the Leadville block going down to Pastime Bar. That is not allowed to happen anywhere else in any other city in central Colorado. That you walk across a perfect pedestrian walkway into a pile of dirt, right? Where there is businesses down that direction where nobody, like, I understand it's not our responsibility, but there is some strategic places that I think we could truly help.
Dana, you have your hand up?
Yes, it's safer for me to walk home from City Hall in the street than down Third Street on the sidewalk, for sure, especially with my aging hips. But my what suddenly just came to mind when you were asking of things that we might be forgetting in the budget, I don't remember seeing this, but do we have property taxes and insurance on the Spruce Street home
We
in the
do.
budget? I saw-
Good catch. Yes, we've taken care of all that.
Okay,
As in Donna has taken.
Yeah,
care of that for us.
we took care of that, Donna. Sorry.
Donna keeps an eye on us, so.
thank you. I saw utilities and then I got distracted, I think.
And alongside those, that conversation, also grant writing, I come from the nonprofit sector. I worked at Full Circle for quite a while, about 3-4 years. We have not only one dedicated grant writer, but a dedicated grant supports writer. And that's, the budget there is nowhere near the budget that the city has. And we could be leveraging, as you know, the person that came in from DOLA said, there's probably a grant for just about most of the work that we want to do from the federal government. So I think, in my opinion, it's worth investing in a position for grant writing, grant researching, even if it's a temporary position or a pay increase to a current position. It makes the most sense to me, and I think that is a very effective way to leverage any types of funds. Because not only is it important to have someone who can write grants, but be effective at it. I mean, there's so many people who write grants and just never get any of them because they weren't trained to properly write grants. And it wasn't part of it. So I think it's worthwhile to invest in that. It's not this year, I get it, but at some point, I think it's worthwhile.
So I'm aware of Sustainable Strategies, so I'm on their email list because they do a great job of summarizing different grants that are available.
Mhm.
And a couple of other cities use them to identify grants, write the grants, manage the grants. They have a Denver office. So it's something that we may just be able to, because, you know, we can have a staff person apply for grants that we're familiar with, but to, like what you were saying, research what's out there, identify a need. You know, we have a need for sidewalks, go find money out there that can get us sidewalk money. And then write it, so we get the sidewalk money and then manage it. So it may be something we can look into for contracting out until we can figure out how to do it in-house.
Yeah.
But Sustainable Strategies is highly recommended by a couple other cities that are in our boat.
I mean, I've done data analysis for Full Circle for grants, and I've worked in that section alone, and it's quite a heavy lift. So I would imagine it would be its own entire job.
Yeah, may I? So the first 2 years I was fixing an agency next door, but after that, the city invested in me to take multiple courses on grant writing. And from that, I started writing grants. And then I had my failures along the way, but I learned a lot of lessons, but then I also reached out to other people that wrote grants and learned a lot. And I also hired people to help me assist in those. But it is taxing, it's very, very taxing. Like, it could be a full-time job of mine next door. That's why I'm having had, I don't even write the BFA because I can't even get around to it. But I guess my point is that the city and the county collectively, a grant writer is the way to go.
But no doubt about it, it's something that Lori's been talking to us about for 6 months. I'd like to change the subject quickly. We're going to have an all-city staff meeting next week on Thursday, November 3rd. One of the reasons we're going to have that, and I'm going to digress a little bit, as you guys know, St. Vincent's Hospital has had its problems lately, but the hospital is still in good shape. But as part of those problems, Dr. Zwirlinger has decided she has left the hospital Actually, she leaves as of November 1st, and she's starting a separate practice. And what she's going to do fascinates me, and we're going to offer it to employees as an optional part of our plan. And to give you some idea, it's called a DPC, which is a direct primary care. So she would be, if somebody signs up with this plan, she's your doctor. That's it. Kind of end of story. If you need medical care, you go to her. You would also probably want to have a catastrophic care plan available to you. But to give you some idea of the cost, she says for someone aged 19 to 64, it's $100 a month. That's what it costs to have her as your primary care physician. And for 65 and older, it's $120 a month. And then for underage 18, it's $50 a month. So this is, for most people, that's the care they need. They don't need a huge insurance plan, you know, to go to the doctor and get primary care. Now, our plan is that if you want to buy into this plan, and it's entirely optional, you know what you want to do, you can stick with the health care plan as is, but if you want to buy into this plan, and then you take the lowest care plan that's available in our health insurance, which would be kind of catastrophic care, which would have a high deductible, high out of pocket. We understand that. So it's a decision to be made. If you did that, we would pay for this care. So that's where we're going with this. It's very interesting to me.
We
I'm
need to
under-
crunch some numbers, but
Yeah.
that's it's a good option for people who are.
I think it's a great option for people who, especially younger people who normally might never buy into an insurance plan. But if they buy into this insurance plan, then it would, especially for young people who tend to not like to be on insurance plans, this would be a real benefit to them. That's what we're going to do.
As long as you don't need medicine, labs, radiology, or anything else.
She's
that you know
covering
of.
labs. She's covering labs as part of this. No.
Which labs? Labs that you cover in the office, like pee in a cup kind of labs?
No, these are
I'll
labs.
bet you if you send out,
She's already negotiated a price with the lab. And that's part of her service.
I bet that has some limitations.
Well, those are questions you can ask. I mean, she's gonna be there at that employee meeting. And there may be flaws to this, that are not obvious. I can't tell.
I mean, one for sure is limiting the provider. Obviously, this is optional, but we definitely see limiting the provider if someone doesn't have a good experience, how that might be a little bit of a difficult situation if they're on it. And just communicating what would be the option to move. My personal belief is your choice should be the doctor, not necessarily which insurance plan, but that's my personal belief in terms of freedom and what we should offer people in freedom.
We do offer that.
Yeah.
That they don't even have to consider. this
Yeah, you
option.
said
Yeah.
it's optional.
Right. So.
Which I'm very happy.
Good.
But also make sure there's some type of transitional, okay, well, if you don't want to be on this, how do we?
This is just an offer we felt like we could offer good faith to our employees. And we think it could be a benefit to some employees, not all.
You had a comment?
Yes, to turn the table a little bit, I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I do not have any numbers in there for the FMLI. Because I'm not sure what we landed
that's
on
true.
that, so keep that in mind. And the other thing that is a must, I'm still trying to get a price for cybersecurity insurance. Neither one of those are in this budget.
All right, thank you.
Well, hopefully cybersecurity insurance isn't too much, but since our auditor recommended it and I'll do a little cybersecurity update during the city administrator's report, but yeah, it's probably not a bad thing to have these days.
We have two, one county, I think one city that have been hit with ransomware. just in the last few months, Fremont County. And they both refused to pay. To their credit.
So, okay, stealing the thunder from the update next week, but, so we got ransom, we got hacked, and even though they had all the protections in place. It still took them a week to get the city hall back online. So. Yeah, it's the real deal. You wouldn't think that little cities, and the cybersecurity training that I went to a couple weeks ago, that. It is, they are looking for the weakest link, so don't be the weakest link. But it's true, you know, I mean, the easy targets are the easiest targets, and so we definitely don't want to be an easy target. Well, we have an update on the cybersecurity assessment we're getting. Hannah's helping us write a grant for some cybersecurity infrastructure, which we saw in the city admin budget. But we're taking that seriously because we can't afford to be down for a week. We don't want to be down for a week. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Any last thoughts, anybody, before we go home and get some dinner?
I was just noticing how tidy the chambers is.
It's very tight.
Go through and give it a little
Looks nice.
spit.
Shanti was here yesterday.
Hey,
Yeah, I did ask him, he asked me if there was anything that he could do, and I just let him know that, you know, if he could like bring up some services, so.
We will pass. the word
Scott,
on
did
to
you bring
Shanti.
your white gloves? Is that it?
I just noticed like there's not stuff all around, so.
We're getting there, just not upstairs yet. We're still working on upstairs.
Oh,
Max,
that's-
get a couple-
That's city council then, right? November 1st. Okay. Max will not be here. Does anybody else think they will not be here next week? Mida will not be here next week.
Mine is going to be here next week. We're not letting her go.
Yeah.
Decided to Hotel California. You can check out. You can never leave.
I do want to say thank you to everybody involved and awesome, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mida.
Yes, thank you.
Mida, I did take it up with Ben Cairns and registered my complaint, and he said he didn't care.
That's funny.
Worked super hard.
And Councilmember Green was your response, what goes around comes around?
It should have been.
Thank you. I hope you were really hard on me. All right. Thank you guys very much.
8:14?
Yeah.
Calling it?
8:14 it is.
You want that or?
Uh,
Okay.